My beloved child, stop scrolling and remain here for this moment, because what you are about to hear was not placed before you by accident. Something has shifted behind the scenes of this connection, and the person whose heart has been quietly tied to yours has finally discovered a truth that changes everything. They now know who was standing between you. They know who kept creating confusion, delaying conversations, twisting innocent moments, and making both of you question what was once deeply felt. And although they are furious, heaven is asking you not to focus only on their anger, because beneath that anger is something far more powerful, a love that refused to disappear, even after someone tried to bury it. Pause here for a moment. Do not rush past these words. Your soulmate did not discover this truth through one dramatic confession or one obvious mistake. It came together slowly, like scattered pieces of a hidden picture finally forming in front of their eyes. A sentence they once ignored suddenly made sense. A warning they accepted without questioning began to sound suspicious. A conversation they were told never happened returned to their memory with painful clarity. The smallest details started connecting, and once they saw the pattern, they could no longer pretend it was coincidence. For a long time, your person believed the distance between you had happened naturally. They thought perhaps the timing was wrong. They wondered whether you had changed your mind. They questioned whether the connection had only felt powerful because they wanted it to be powerful. There were nights when they replayed your words, searching for the exact moment everything began to shift. They blamed themselves. They blamed circumstances. At times, they even blamed you. But now, something extraordinary has been revealed, and the truth has left them emotionally shaken. Someone close enough to observe this connection had been quietly influencing it. This person may not have appeared like an enemy. That is what makes the revelation so shocking. They may have smiled while asking questions about you. They may have pretended to care about your soulmate's peace. They may have used soft words, concerned expressions, and carefully timed advice. But behind that concern was another intention. They did not want your soulmate to trust what they felt for you. They wanted doubt to grow slowly, because doubt is often more powerful when it feels like your own thought. Stay until the end, because the reason this person interfered is not what your soulmate first believed. At first, they thought it was simple jealousy. They assumed this person disliked you, misunderstood you, or felt protective. But the deeper they looked, the more complicated it became. This was not just about keeping two people apart. This was about control. Someone was afraid that your connection would change the balance of their world. They feared that if your soulmate became closer to you, they would become stronger, more independent, more emotionally awake, and much harder to influence. Your presence awakened something inside your person. Before you entered their emotional world, they had become used to silence. They had learned to accept relationships where they gave more than they received. They had learned to hide their deeper feelings because people around them did not always know what to do with honesty. Then you appeared, and suddenly they felt seen. Not perfectly understood, perhaps, but deeply noticed. You reflected parts of them they had almost forgotten. You reminded them that love could feel like recognition instead of performance. That frightened the person who had been benefiting from your soulmate's uncertainty. Do not skip what comes next, because your soulmate has now remembered the first moment the interference began. It happened after they spoke about you with unusual warmth. They may not have called you their soulmate. They may not have openly admitted how important you were becoming. But their face changed when they mentioned you. Their voice softened. Their energy became lighter. Someone noticed. And from that moment, the questions began. Are you sure this person is genuine? Do you really know them? Maybe you are imagining the connection. What if they are saying the same things to someone else? Why would they suddenly care so much? Each question seemed harmless alone. Together, they created a cloud. Your soulmate did not realize they were being led away from their own intuition. They thought they were being careful. They thought they were protecting themselves. But in reality, someone was teaching them to mistrust the very connection that had made them feel alive. Heaven saw every moment. Heaven saw when your soulmate almost reached out but changed their mind after hearing another negative opinion. Heaven saw when they typed a message to you, stared at it, and deleted it. Heaven saw when they wanted to defend you but remained silent because they did not yet understand why the pressure around them felt so intense. And heaven also saw you on the other side, wondering why the energy had suddenly changed. You felt the distance before it was explained. You noticed pauses that had never been there before. You sensed hesitation where warmth once flowed naturally. You may have wondered whether you had done something wrong. You searched your memory, examining conversations, questioning your tone, wondering whether your honesty had frightened them away. Yet deep within you, another voice kept whispering that the story was incomplete. That inner voice was right. Something huge is waiting for you in this revelation, because your soulmate has not only discovered who interfered, they have discovered how far the interference went. This person did not simply share an opinion. They altered the meaning of certain moments. They repeated private details without context. They may have presented guesses as facts. They may have claimed to know what you intended, even though they never truly knew your heart. At one point, your soulmate was told something about you that stayed in their mind for far too long. It may have been a statement suggesting you were not serious, that you had another priority, that you would eventually leave, or that your kindness was not as sincere as it appeared. Your person wanted to reject it. Their heart immediately resisted. But because the warning came from someone familiar, they gave it more weight than it deserved. This is where the distance deepened. Your soulmate began watching you through the lens of another person's suspicion. Innocent delays became evidence. Quiet moments became rejection. Boundaries became coldness. Confidence became pride. Your person was no longer seeing you clearly, they were seeing a version of you created through fear. But truth has a way of surviving distortion. Recently, something happened that exposed the contradiction. The person who had been speaking against you forgot what they had said before. Their story changed. A detail no longer matched. Your soulmate noticed the inconsistency immediately, although they did not react. They remained quiet. They listened more carefully. For the first time, they stopped accepting the explanation and began studying it. That was the beginning of the awakening. From that day, your soulmate started revisiting everything. They reread old messages. They remembered your consistency. They compared what you actually said with what they had been told you meant. The difference was undeniable. Your words carried sincerity, while the interpretation they had received carried fear. Your actions may not have been perfect, but they were not deceptive. The more your person looked, the more they realized they had been encouraged to doubt someone who had never been given a fair chance to explain. Their anger did not arrive all at once. First came disbelief. Then came sadness. Then came shame. They felt ashamed that they had allowed another voice to become louder than their own heart. They wondered how many moments had been lost. They imagined what might have happened if they had trusted you earlier. They remembered times when you gave them opportunities to speak honestly, yet they held back because someone had convinced them that vulnerability would make them foolish. Now, that shame is turning into determination. Your soulmate is furious because they realize the interference was not harmless. It changed decisions. It delayed communication. It caused emotional confusion. It made both of you carry questions that never belonged to either of you. But their deepest anger is directed inward. They are asking themselves, why did I not see this sooner? Why did I allow someone else to define what I felt? Why did I let fear speak for me? My child, this is not the end of the connection. This is the moment illusion begins losing power. Your soulmate is beginning to separate truth from influence. They are no longer asking everyone what they should feel. They are listening to their own memories. They are remembering the way their spirit responded to you before anyone interfered. They remember feeling calm around your energy, even when the situation was uncertain. They remember being drawn to your honesty, even when it challenged them. They remember that you awakened hope within them during a time when hope had become difficult. The person who blocked this connection underestimated that memory. They believed enough distance would erase the bond. They believed silence would weaken it. They believed that if they could create enough confusion, your soulmate would eventually move on without ever questioning what happened. But something within your person refused to let the story close. Even when they tried to distract themselves, you returned to their thoughts. Even when they accepted advice to let go, their heart did not fully agree. Even when they told themselves the connection was over, certain memories remained unusually vivid. Your voice appeared in quiet moments. Your presence returned in dreams. A song, a place, a phrase, or a familiar feeling would suddenly bring you back. They did not understand why until now. The connection was not demanding obsession. It was demanding truth. There is a difference. What they felt was not simply an inability to move forward. It was the soul's refusal to accept a false ending. Something inside them knew that the distance had not been created by honest understanding. It had been built through assumptions, outside pressure, and words that were never fully examined. Now the false ending is breaking apart. Stay with me, because the next part of this revelation is where the situation becomes even more intense. Your soulmate has realized that the person interfering may have had access to information they were never supposed to use. Something personal was shared in confidence, and instead of protecting it, this person used it to shape the narrative. Your soulmate remembers one particular conversation. They had spoken about a fear connected to you. Perhaps they feared losing you, being rejected, not being enough, or becoming too emotionally attached. They trusted someone with that vulnerability. Instead of helping them become clear, that person fed the fear. They said exactly what would make your soulmate retreat. This was not random advice. It was targeted. The person knew where your soulmate felt insecure. They knew which emotional wound remained sensitive. They knew that if they suggested you might repeat an old pattern from the past, your person would become guarded. And that is exactly what happened. But now your soulmate sees it. They see that their old pain was used against their new connection. They see that the person who claimed to protect them was actually protecting their own influence. They see that someone did not want them to heal, because a healed person cannot be controlled in the same way. This realization has changed the way your soulmate views many relationships around them. They are now questioning who truly supports their growth and who only supports the version of them that remains dependent. They are recognizing that some people celebrate your happiness only when it does not change your priorities. Some people say they want you to find love, but become uncomfortable when love teaches you to create boundaries. Some people encourage you to move forward, but only if moving forward does not mean moving beyond their control. Your connection represented change. That is why it was challenged. You were not only entering your soulmate's heart. You were awakening their courage. You were inspiring them to speak more honestly, think more independently, and confront patterns they had avoided. The person interfering sensed that transformation. They may not have understood it spiritually, but they felt their influence weakening. So they tried to make you look like the problem. But truth is returning to its rightful place. Your soulmate is now revisiting the moments when you seemed distant. Instead of assuming you did not care, they are wondering whether you were protecting your peace after sensing confusion. They are remembering that you also carried uncertainty. They are seeing how unfair it was to expect you to keep proving yourself while they remained silent. This awareness is painful, but necessary. It is making them softer toward you and stronger toward the interference. They are beginning to understand that you may have been waiting for clarity too. You may have wanted to hear something honest from them. You may have hoped they would stop listening to every outside voice and finally speak from their heart. You may have wondered why a connection that felt so powerful could suddenly become so complicated. Now they know. And they want to tell you. Do not skip, because this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Your soulmate has not confronted the person yet, not fully. Their fury is real, but they are holding it beneath the surface because they want more than an argument. They want the complete truth. They are watching. They are listening. They are asking careful questions. They are allowing the person to speak without revealing how much they already know. This quietness may look like hesitation, but it is strategy. Your person wants to discover whether the interference was limited to words or whether something else happened behind the scenes. They suspect there may have been a message that never reached them, a conversation that was misrepresented, or information deliberately kept from them. That suspicion is growing stronger. A small detail recently appeared: something your soulmate was never meant to notice. It may have been a name mentioned at the wrong time. It may have been a reaction that exposed too much. It may have been a message preview, a forgotten screenshot, or a comment from someone who did not realize there was a secret. Whatever it was, your soulmate froze. Because in that moment, they realized the person interfering knew far more about your private connection than they should have known. The question is no longer, did someone influence this? The question is, what exactly did they do? Heaven is revealing this slowly because your heart must remain grounded. You are not being asked to react with anger. You are not being asked to chase anyone for answers. You are being asked to recognize that what felt like rejection may have been confusion. What felt like abandonment may have been emotional manipulation. What felt like a closed door may have been a door surrounded by voices telling your soulmate not to open it. But the door is moving now. Your soulmate's feelings have not disappeared. In fact, the truth has forced them to confront how strong those feelings still are. They are remembering everything they tried to suppress. They remember the first time they sensed that you were different. They remember the way your presence made ordinary moments feel meaningful. They remember wanting to tell you more than they allowed themselves to say. And now they are wondering whether you still feel it too. This question has become impossible for them to ignore. They are afraid that the delay may have cost them your trust. They are afraid that while they were confused, you may have learned to live without them. They are afraid that you may no longer believe their feelings were real. Yet somewhere beneath that fear is a rising conviction: they cannot allow another person to write the final chapter. They want to take back their voice. They want to explain what happened. They want to admit that they doubted something sacred because they trusted the wrong influence. They want to tell you that their silence was not the absence of feeling. It was the result of an internal battle they did not know how to name. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate is preparing for a decision. This decision is not only about contacting you. It is about choosing honesty over approval. It is about risking discomfort in order to reclaim what was almost lost. It is about confronting the person who benefited from the separation and making it clear that the connection is no longer available for outside control. Your soulmate has reached a point where remaining silent feels more painful than speaking. That is why their energy feels intense. That is why you may have sensed them strongly. That is why memories of them may be returning without warning. Their soul is moving toward truth, and truth creates movement before it creates words. But there is still one missing piece. Your soulmate has discovered who planted the doubt, but they have not yet uncovered the original reason this person became so determined to block the connection. They believe it was control. They believe it was jealousy. They believe it was fear of change. Yet the latest clue suggests something even deeper. This person may have known about you before your soulmate ever openly spoke about you. They may have noticed the connection forming earlier than anyone realized. They may have recognized what you represented. And they may have been carrying a hidden motive that reaches back further than your person can currently understand. Tonight, your soulmate intends to ask one final question. It is a question that could expose every lie, every delay, and every secret conversation surrounding this bond. But what your soulmate does not yet know is that the person who blocked this connection is preparing to reveal something of their own, something that could completely change what both of you believed about the beginning of this story.